Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we are going to talk about what is an why Docker container. In Docker architectures, we are just going to just understand, what is the containers. You know, let's understand some more details, like in a standard machine, virtual machine, followed by the container first, one by one, then do the comparisons, and then we'll come to the conclusion. So what is the Docker containers in detail? In this lecture itself. A standard machine. So a standard machines, nothing but it may be like an this is a cloud infrastructures or like in your own premises. On top of that, you will be get that in a one host way operating system. And on top of that, in your host operating system, say if you want to develop any applications A, applications B, or application C, you need a binaries and libraries for that. There is a possibility, just understand that in binary library is needed for applications A, applications B, and C, but there is a possibility which will not like in same for all three applications. So this is we can consider that like in a standard machines. We'll talk more once we'll see next. So after that, it's come into that in a virtual machine. So in virtual machines, what happened? We have an infrastructure, and on top of that infrastructures we have a host operating system, and then we have a hypervisor. So in hypervisors we are running that in a guest operating system, which is nothing but virtual machine VM, and on top of that we are running that in applications A, applications B, and application C. But what happened here, we have like in applications A libraries, their one binaries and library, on top of that in guest operating system, in same case for applications B and application C as well. Now that in Docker container come into that in picture. So what is happening? We have a infrastructures, then we have a host operating system where we have a Docker engine. So now we don't have a hypervisor. What we have a Docker engine where on top of that in a host operating system. This will be shared that in a kernel of a host operating system, and now we have a container, Docker container 1, Docker container 2, and Docker container 3. So where app A is available, and it's a use have their one binaries and library. For same case for app B, which have their one beans and leaves, and in app C also have their one bean and leaves. What happened? Now dig into that in more details. So in terms of a standard machines, app A will be have their one beans and leaves, meaning let's say here we are running that in a Tomcat Java applications in terms of a JSP, where we have it app A as a Tomcat. So the Tomcat will be have their one binaries and libraries, and let's say here we have a Apache or some other application. So Apache will be have their one library which is not compatible. So meaning we need like there one so we need a dedicated bin and libraries for that. In terms of applications B, if you'll see that in terms of application C, we need there one dedicated bin and libs on top of that in a host operating system. So each and every applications will be have their one bin and libs, and which is not compatible, but it will be lie into that in a host operating system itself. Now we'll talk on that in a virtual machine. So in virtual machine, what is happening? Dedicated guest OS operating system is installed, which is occupying more resources in terms of a CPU and disk, and in many like in others as well, because each applications we need guest operating system. And then another drawback will be there for making a guest OS like in running an app, it will be take some time. So that is another big disadvantage also we have in terms of a virtual machines. But in terms of a container, what is happening, that is another scenario. Let's consider like in a host OS, we have infrastructure on host OS. There is a VM is running, which is a guest operating system on terms, and on top of that we have a Docker engines. It's running applications A, B, and lib, and same thing for applications B and application C as well. So such kinds of example you'll be see that in, especially like in laptop or Mac, Windows or Mac, and we are going to do that in our example as well. You know, so other than that, what we have here, like in terms of a container, so containers are efficient, easily portable across different platform. So let's say like in we have a infrastructure. On top of that we have a host OS, then we have a Docker engine. On Docker engines we have applications A and their ones bin and libraries in terms of a container one. In container two we have applications V, where we have like in beans and leaves, and container three application C will be have a binaries and leaves. Now talk like in we talk A, B, and C, but what it will be like if we'll say that in something meaningful, which is used day to day in terms of, let's say now A is replaced with Apache HTTP server. So what will be happen? Apache HTTP will server will be have their one beans and leaves, and that will be considered as one container. Similarly, the Nginx will be have their one beans and leaves, and that will be for Nginx, and followed by that like in similarly Apache Tomcat will be have their one, but that will be considered as a Docker container for the Tomcat, and you can use that in Docker container for your one applications, and that your own applications will be have that in binaries and lib in terms of a container. We'll talk in more details how the containers will be created and all in upcoming lectures, but hopefully now you understand that in top level what is the containers. Let's talk bit more. So the containers are like in a standardized packaging for software and dependencies. It's isolated apps from the each other and share that in same OS kernel, works for all major Linux distributions, and containers native for the Windows 2000 Server 2016. If you'll see that in like in graph container, which will have the Tomcat, Java, and running on that in Debian. On another container we have where we are running that in SQL Server .NET on top of the Ubuntu, and the third one we have a statics binary which is running on the Alpine. And but what is happening? The container is sharing for all, like in kernel is sharing for all containers. You know, so in high level, that's all about that in what is an why container Docker containers. We'll see one like in more details once we'll start doing that in hands-on. So this is just a theoretical lectures, and I'm considering you understand that in a high level of what is Docker container. And please let me know if you have any concerns, and thanks for watching.